You weren't born weak. You were made that way. Softened by comfort, tamed by expectations, trained to believe that strength is dangerous and that safety is virtue. But weakness, it's not a personality trait. It's a lifestyle. And in this video, I'm going to show you why most people stay stuck in that lifestyle forever and how to break free. Make sure you watch until the very end, because the final part of this video, it's the blueprint most men will never hear. And it's the reason some rise while others rot. Most people stay weak because it feels safe. They don't want to disturb the waters. They don't want to say what they really think. They don't want to feel discomfort because they've been taught their whole lives to avoid friction. So they make micro compromises. They smile when they want to scream. They agree when they want to walk away. They stay still, even when everything inside them begs to move. And over time, they call that peace. But it's not peace, it's surrender. Weakness isn't what you lack. It's what you've tolerated for too long. The modern world won't call you weak. It'll call you kind. It'll call you nice. It'll call you safe. And it will reward you for betraying your edge. Because the more harmless you become, the more predictable you are. And the more predictable you are, the easier it is to use you. This isn't about physical strength. It's not about yelling louder or walking around with fake bravado. It's about the quiet choices you make every day. Do you delay discomfort? Do you soften your truth to avoid rejection? Do you reach for the easy dopamine hit instead of the hard decision? Because every time you do, you don't just avoid pain, you train yourself to stay weak. He's not dying, but he's not alive either. He's manageable, comfortable, domesticated. The weak man doesn't look broken. He looks normal, because weakness has become the norm, the default. And if you dare to break that mold, to be sharper, colder, more decisive, you're labeled aggressive. You're told to tone it down because your strength exposes their fear. Most people don't hate strength. They hate what it reveals about their own compromise. Weakness doesn't show up all at once. It creeps in when you let your boundaries slide, when you let people talk to you a certain way, when you silence yourself to keep the peace, when you know what you need to do, but choose comfort instead. It's death by 1,000 concessions. And the body doesn't scream. The soul does. That quiet ache you feel, that's not burnout. That's your real self calling you out. Carl Jung said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." But you can't become who you truly are while living in fear of friction. You can't become who you truly are while keeping your edge dull so others feel safe. You can't become who you truly are while carrying the lifestyle of a man who's already given up. Weakness isn't softness, it's the repetition of small surrenders. And the world you live in, it's built to reward those surrenders. Coming up next, we break down exactly how the world trains you to be soft and how to see through the script that's been fed to you since birth. If you're enjoying this video so far and getting value, please don't forget to like and subscribe to support the continuation of this work. Now, let's go deeper. You didn't invent your weakness. You inherited it from teachers who punished your intensity, from systems that rewarded your obedience, from a culture that taught you, don't be too loud, don't stand out, don't be difficult. And little by little, you complied. But what if I told you this was never an accident? The world needs you soft, not physically soft. Mentally, emotionally, spiritually softened. Blunt edges filed down. Wildness removed. Because a strong, grounded man, he's hard to manipulate, hard to control, hard to monetize. But a man who's desperate for approval, who fears being disliked, who needs validation to feel real, that man is a perfect product. You weren't conditioned to be kind. You were conditioned to be compliant. Let's look at where this starts. School. From day one, you're told, raise your hand, don't question the rules, color inside the lines, sit still, shut up, and don't disrupt the flow. And if you disobey, you're punished, shamed, diagnosed, not because you were wrong, but because you weren't manageable. Next comes society. You're told, be nice to everyone. Don't be intimidating. Always say yes. Being liked is more important than being respected. They don't want men who speak truth with edge. They want men who mirror what's around them. Politely, predictably, passively, because passive men keep the system comfortable. You were trained to be liked, not respected, to avoid conflict, not face it, to please the group, even if it kills your soul. This is not morality, it's programming. Carl Jung warned us, the greatest burden a child must bear is the unlived life of the parent. But most men are still carrying it, living out someone else's expectations, trying to be good instead of becoming whole. And here's the catch. The moment you stop playing the role, the backlash begins. You'll be told, you're being selfish. You've changed. You're too serious. You're too cold now. Because your strength disturbs the equilibrium. Your edge disrupts their illusion. And your refusal to submit makes others confront their own compromise. This is exactly how the system works. Punish deviation early. Reward emotional predictability. Equate self-abandonment with social success. And over time, you don't even realize you've been trained. You just wake up one day, numb, tired, disconnected from the man you were meant to be. You were told to tame your fire, but they never told you that fire was your power. Even the self-improvement world plays this game. It promises success and confidence. As long as you stay marketable, agreeable, and safe. But real growth, real power, it doesn't come from fitting in. It comes from friction, from breaking the script, from choosing authenticity over acceptance, no matter the cost. You weren't born to be domesticated. You weren't built for people-pleasing. You were made to carry weight, to speak hard truth, to walk alone when necessary, and every part of the world that tells you otherwise is lying to you. Because your softness makes you sellable, but your strength makes you sovereign. Now that you've seen the script, it's time to talk about the next level of control, emotional reactivity. Because once they've softened your edges, they only need one more thing to control you, your reactions. That's where we're going next. Let's get surgical. There's a reason powerful people stay calm, why high-level men seem unreadable, why kings, warriors, and leaders throughout history learn to speak slowly and move even slower. Because the second you become reactive, you become predictable. And the moment you're predictable, you can be controlled. Emotional reactivity isn't strength, it's leverage for everyone except you. Every outburst, every flinch, every time you defend yourself impulsively, you're handing over control. You're telling the world, here's how to move me. Here's how to manipulate me. Here's how to win. Most people don't realize this. They think reacting is real. They think yelling is power. They think venting is healing. But the truth, reactiveness is obedience in disguise. It's the emotional leash that keeps you tied to other people's games. Reactivity isn't just weakness, it's programming. And the ones who know how to push your buttons, they don't need strength, they just need access. This is how weak people control strong men. They use guilt, they use neediness, they use passive aggression, they use silence, baiting, fake emergencies. And the second you bite, they win, because your reaction keeps them relevant. Let's go deeper. Carl Jung said, everything that irritates us about others can lead us to a better understanding of ourselves. So when someone provokes you and you explode, that explosion isn't power. It's a mirror. It's a signal of where you are still unresolved. where you are still leaking energy. Emotion isn't the problem. Emotion is feedback. Emotion is data. But uncontrolled emotion is a liability. Here's how it works in the real world. You argue with someone who thrives on chaos. You validate their existence. You try to explain yourself to someone committed to misunderstanding you. You waste energy and degrade your frame. You text back immediately when you feel anxious. You trade sovereignty for momentary relief. And worst of all, you call that connection. You've been taught to associate silence with weakness, detachment with coldness, stoicism with repression. But that's a lie told by people who need your emotional chaos to stay in control. Because when you're no longer reactive, you become unreadable, you become untouchable, you become dangerous. Let me give you the real move. Pause. Every time you want to fire back, over-explain, chase, defend. Pause. Let them sit with your silence. Let the tension rise. Because power doesn't come from force. It comes from the ability to choose your timing. The strong man moves when he's ready, not when he's triggered. This is where the game flips. Because now, you don't argue. You observe. You don't flinch. You wait. You don't over-explain. You speak once and let the weight land. And suddenly, everyone around you feels it. You're no longer reacting to the world. The world is reacting to you. This is why discipline isn't just about what you do. It's about what you no longer respond to. It's about reclaiming your signal from everyone who hijacked it. You don't owe anyone your reaction. You don't owe anyone your energy. You don't owe anyone the emotional keys to your presence. Let them wander. Let them spiral. Let them face the silence they used to avoid. Because in that silence, your power returns. So now that you've seen how reactivity steals your power, we have to go deeper. Because most men stay reactive for one simple reason: comfort, the addiction to feeling good now, even if it costs you everything later. And that's what we'll dismantle next. You think you're making logical decisions. You're not. You're making comfortable ones. You tell yourself you'll do it tomorrow, that you're not ready yet, that you need more information, more time, more clarity. But what you really mean is, I'd rather stay safe than suffer forward. This is the trap of comfort, the quiet killer of greatness, the invisible gravity that keeps most men stuck. Because comfort doesn't show up like destruction. It shows up like a warm bed, a late scroll, or just one more episode. It whispers, "You're good enough. You deserve a break. Take it easy." And at first, it feels like relief, but stay long enough, it becomes a cage. The most dangerous addictions aren't substances. They're patterns that feel safe while they destroy you. Comfort is subtle. It doesn't make you miserable. It makes you dull, not depressed, just unmotivated, not weak, just soft, not lost, just tired. And that's the problem. Because a man in pain will eventually act, but a man in comfort, he will decay quietly. That version of you, the one you think about when no one's watching, he's dying, not because you're incapable, but because you keep choosing comfort over confrontation. The truth: every time you scroll instead of stretch, every time you eat instead of train, every time you avoid the hard conversation, you're not resting, you're retreating. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You love your distractions, for they are your masters now." The Roman emperor said this to himself. That's how deep this runs. Even men with armies, power, wealth, still had to wrestle the voice that said, "It's fine, you've done enough." You want to know how warriors are forged? Not through rage, not through hype, but through daily discomfort, by choice. Cold showers, early mornings, saying no to what feels easy, saying yes to what makes you stretch. You do this not because it's efficient, but because it keeps your edge sharp. Because here's what they won't tell you: comfort makes you easier to manage. A man addicted to pleasure is easy to manipulate, easy to sell to, easy to distract, easy to tame. But a man who can sit in discomfort, a man who can suffer by choice, he's dangerous because he's not controlled by relief. He's guided by alignment. This is why comfort is celebrated everywhere. Soft lighting, fast food, instant delivery, mindless scrolling, emotional escapism wrapped in self-care. They want you so sedated by ease that you forget what challenge even feels like. And once you do, you'll never rise again. You'll just loop. You don't escape this by going to war with the world. You escape it by choosing different friction, the kind that builds, not breaks. Because the pain of discipline is temporary. The pain of regret, it compounds for decades. Carl Jung said, people will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own soul. That includes numbing themselves with pleasure, softening their edge, and calling it a balanced life. But this isn't balance. This is drift, a slow, quiet death, dressed up in dopamine. So here's the challenge. Take the cold shower. Wake up early. Say no to the thing that gives you comfort but kills your fire. Choose the pain that sharpens, not once, daily. That's how strength is built. That's how weakness dies. So now, we've exposed the trap. You're not soft because you're incapable. You're soft because you've been addicted to ease. But now, we shift because beneath that comfort is a shadow, a part of you you've been avoiding. And until you face it, you'll never be free. There's a reason most men stay weak, and it's not because they're lazy. It's not because they're undisciplined. It's because they're afraid of what strength would cost them. Because true strength doesn't just change how others see you. It forces you to confront everything you've avoided inside yourself. Carl Jung called it the shadow, the parts of you that you've repressed, denied, or buried. Your anger, your ambition, your hunger, your aggression, your dominance, not because they're wrong, but because you were taught they're bad. The shadow is not evil, it's unlived potential hiding behind guilt and fear. Most men stay weak because weakness allows them to avoid the shadow, to stay likable, to stay nice, to stay unthreatening. They suppress their power because they fear who they'll become if they fully embody it. What if I become selfish? What if people leave? What if I can't control it? So they choose passivity, and they call it virtue. But it's not virtue, it's fear, dressed up as goodness. You think you're protecting others by staying small, but the truth, you're avoiding yourself, because stepping into strength means taking on weight, responsibility, judgment, isolation, misunderstanding, power, with no one to save you if you fail. That's why it's easier to stay weak. Weakness means you get comfort, you get understanding, you get coddled. Strength means you get tested, you get doubted, you get watched. And most men, they'd rather be accepted than respected. Jung said, there is no coming to consciousness without pain. Because when you integrate your shadow, you no longer ask permission to exist. You stop playing small. You stop apologizing for your truth. You stop dimming yourself for others' comfort. And that shift, it makes people uncomfortable because they're used to the soft version of you, the version that fit their story. And here's the hardest truth. Most people who loved you only loved your weakness. They loved how available you were, how agreeable you were, how soft you made them feel by staying smaller than your potential. But when you rise, when you integrate the part of you that says, no, I decide now. This is my boundary. This is my direction. They don't recognize you anymore, and they'll call that change wrong. Because the shadow reveals the truth. Not just about you, but about them. About how much of their identity was built on your silence, your softness, your emotional compliance. And when that breaks, their illusion does too. This is why reclaiming your strength is so violent, not outwardly, but internally, because you're not just building discipline. You're burying your former self. The one who begged, the one who needed, the one who waited to be chosen. That man dies, and in his place, a sovereign one emerges. You are not weak, you're just terrified of your real potential, because it means letting go of everything fake. So, how do you integrate the shadow? You stop running from your edge. You say what needs to be said. You move with intention, not fear. You accept that not everyone will come with you, and that's okay, because your mission was never about making people feel safe. It was about becoming whole. And wholeness, it includes fire. Now that you've seen the shadow, now that you understand why weakness feels safer than strength, we can go deeper into what strength really looks like. Not the loud version, not the fake alpha mask, but the kind of strength that's silent, strategic, and sovereign. Most people misunderstand what it means to be dangerous. They think it means being aggressive, loud, violent, but real danger doesn't yell. It waits, it watches, it moves once, and only once, with precision. To become dangerous is not to become reckless. It's to become capable of damage, capable of control, capable of restraint. A man who is not dangerous is not virtuous. He's just harmless. And harmless men aren't safe. They're weak. They can't protect. They can't lead. They can't hold the frame when things fall apart. If you don't have a sword and only speak kindly, you are not virtuous. You are defenseless. True strength is quiet, because the man who knows he can destroy doesn't need to prove it. His discipline speaks louder than his voice ever could. This is why becoming dangerous is an internal war, because it's not about how you look. It's about how you move, with presence, with gravity, with certainty. So how do you become dangerous without losing your soul? You build the habits that sharpen your edge and remove the ones that dull it. You train when you don't feel like it. You say no, even when it disappoints. You speak less, but make every word land. You walk away when it's time, without guilt, because a man with options doesn't chase. A man with power doesn't beg, and a man with clarity doesn't argue. Being dangerous doesn't mean being feared. It means being respected, even in silence. It means people think twice before pulling you into chaos, before testing your patience, before assuming you'll fold, because your energy doesn't say, "Don't hurt me." It says, "I can take the hit and return it twice as sharp." This is deeper than self-defense. This is psychological sovereignty, because the most dangerous men in the world are calm. They don't flinch. They don't rush. They don't need to perform. They just move when the moment is right, and when they do, everything shifts. Carl Jung wrote, "The man who does not confront his shadow becomes it." So what do? You confront it, you tame it, you own it, so no one else can use it against you. That's why you can't become dangerous by accident. It must be forged, through discomfort, through solitude, through friction. You must suffer with discipline, delay gratification, sharpen your body, your focus, your word. Make peace with being misunderstood. That is how a man becomes dangerous without losing himself. This is why softness is celebrated in the modern world. Because a man who needs comfort is never a threat. A man who's dangerous, he can't be bought. He can't be manipulated. He can't be guilted into betraying his principles. He answers to mission, not mood, not pressure, not fear. True danger isn't rage, it's control. You won't feel like everyone else. You won't talk like them. You won't move like them. And that's the point. You weren't built to be average. You were built to be capable, to be anchored, to be a force. You're almost there. But before you reach the final chapter, you need to understand one last truth. Becoming strong isn't enough. You must stay strong. And for that, you need a system. You've seen the lies. You've faced the shadow. You've rebuilt your edge. Now there's only one question left. Will you sustain it? Or will you slide back? Because becoming strong is hard. But staying strong, that's where most men fall. Not because they lack discipline, but because they return to environments, habits, and people that normalize their weakness. You don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your standards. Here's what most men get wrong. They try to change their life without changing their frame. They build momentum, but keep weak friends. They find clarity, but stay addicted to comfort. They reclaim power, but refuse to enforce boundaries. And eventually, the gravity of the old world pulls them back, because average is magnetic, and weakness is always waiting. This is why most people stay stuck. They don't install a new standard to protect the man they're becoming. They think motivation is enough, but motivation fades. You need a code, a personal ethos, what you tolerate, what you say no to, what you refuse to break for anyone, the pain you choose, on purpose, every day. Because without that, you drift. You wake up one day and wonder why you feel numb again, why your edge is gone, why you feel like a ghost inside your own life. So here's the truth. If you want to break free permanently, you need to create a life that makes weakness uncomfortable. That means train your body until laziness feels disgusting. Cut people who celebrate your softness. Track your actions, not your feelings. Get around men who hold you to a higher standard. Even when you're tired, wake up early, speak less, move with intention. You don't need a breakthrough. You need a code that never bends. Even when you're tired, even when no one's watching, even when comfort comes knocking, especially then. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." He ruled an empire with that principle. You can rule your own life with the same. This is how you break free, kill the stories, rewire the patterns, face the shadow, build the edge, and then guard it like it's sacred, because it is. You don't need more tactics. You need to become a man who simply refuses to slide back. You need to become the kind of man whose strength is predictable, not random, not emotional, not seasonal, standardized, unshakable, unapologetic. You already know what the average man settles for: comfort, excuses, a watered-down life. But now, the mirror turns to you, because strength isn't earned in a single moment. It's forged in repetition, in ritual, in the choice you make today. And every day, you choose drift or discipline, ease or excellence, soft or unstoppable. The world taught you to survive. Now, you teach yourself to conquer. This is Deionos. Subscribe, watch, awaken, and raise your standard until the weak version of you can no longer survive in the world you've created.